So this world basically turned into some messed up hellscape crawling with monsters that regular weapons can't even touch. Humanity's only shot was this elite squad of people with superpowers, and the top dog, like the absolute strongest, was our main character called Kai. But even he wasn't invincible, and when he got double-crossed by some shady organization and cornered with a ton of monsters, he totally bit the dust. But lucky for him, he got zapped back in time like way before the apocalypse, and was reborn as a baby. He kept all his memories about the monsters and his main power, which was the ability to basically yoink the powers and skills from any monster he took out. After taking a closer look, he figures out that somehow he's been turned into a baby. While he's trying to process what the heck is going on, a foot in a slipper just strolls into his room. Kai instantly goes on high alert, scooting back into the corner of his crib as this random figure leans over him. His mind is racing, trying to figure out who this person is and if they're part of that shady organization. But then the lady leans in with this super sweet look on her face and says hi to him as Haechin. Looks like this random woman is actually his mom, and she just came to check on him since she noticed he was awake. Once she's sure he's all good, the woman heads back to the kitchen. And Kai, who's now Haechin, takes a sec to scope out his new surroundings. Everything looks super peaceful and clean, a total 180 from the world he was used to. The TV's on and he can hear people milling around outside the house. Also, it doesn't look like there are any monsters out there. This is definitely an era of peace. And the fact that he's here as a baby means he must have been reincarnated. He's in a whole other world now, one where the big disaster never went down. And get this, that organization doesn't exist here. That means for the first time in like forever, Haechin can finally get a taste of freedom. Even with everything he's been through, it looks like fate's still got his back. This day is going to go down in history as the day of his fresh start. He peeks at the closest calendar and sees the year is 2020, which means he woke up before the great catastrophe. That's so not good since he can't do squat with this baby body. He can't even stand without holding on to something, and his tiny little limbs are way too weak to hold him up. His throat feels all weird compared to his old body, so talking is a no-go too. All of that is seriously bad news for him because time is ticking. There's zero time to just be a regular baby, when the world's about to go full-on apocalypse mode. Haechin looks over at his mom and wonders if he can trust her, but instead of trust, maybe he can just use her like a puppet to get what he wants. She's gotta be good for something even if she seems kind of flaky. She's the only adult he has access to. He wonders if she's at least got some skills, but a bunch of boxes falling off a shelf is all the proof he needs that she's not. She's also super clumsy since she dumps a crazy amount of flour into a bowl while she's cooking. Yeah, she's a terrible cook too, and almost torches the whole house just trying to make breakfast. It's obvious she's pretty useless, but at least she's trying her best to take care of her baby even with her hair all singed from the fire she started earlier. It already feels like the world's ending and the future of his new life is looking real messy. The doorbell rings and his mom goes to get the door for a package that just got delivered. But before she cracks the door, she's got to dip to find her wallet to pay the delivery guy. Akin's racking his brain trying to remember the last time he even heard that word, the last time anyone talked about deliveries. It was back when delivery drivers were dropping stuff off for everyone, and those same drivers ended up being infected. And it turned into a total horror show. As he starts to put two and two together about what this package delivery could actually mean, the door starts creaking open and some spooky voice slips through from the other side telling him to just take the package. When the door swings all the way open, it's exactly what Akin called. The person on the other side is infected and is morphed into some delivery monster. Akin can't afford to freak out, and even though he's stuck in a baby's body, he's gotta find something to fight back with. The only things he can reach are the baby bottle his mom gave him and a pillow. Not wasting a second, he snags the pillow and yeets it onto the floor. Right then, the monster launches an attack straight for his head and the crazy powerful blast rips right through the crib. But Akin's got quick reflexes, so he grabs his bottle and bails, launching himself out of the crib and sticking the landing on the pillow he tossed down before. It's super obvious that if a hit like that landed, he'd be totally toast. Luckily, he's got plenty of XP from fighting monsters in his past life. Because of that, he knows for a fact he has zero chance of beating this thing. This thing is definitely a juiced-up monster, and the tentacles sprouting from its head make it even more gnarly. But he also remembers that crazy strong monsters like this usually suck at making tight turns. With that little cheat code in mind, he gently rolls his bottle under the monster, which totally trips over it while lunging for Akin. It goes flying right over his head and smashes through the window. For the first time, Akin feels legit thankful for all the insane fights he survived in his past life. While he's vibing on his win, something weird happens. A tail just sprouts out of his back and shoots out the window at the monster. When it gets to the dead body on the street, the tail just devours the monster's core like it's got a mind of its own. Akin grabs it and just watches it munch on the core. It looks kind of familiar. Wait, it's the power he had in his last life. The toad tail is a seriously OP ability, but he has no clue why he still has it after being reborn. If he remembers right, the big apocalypse thing is supposed to go down in 4 years. And in his past life, Kai wasn't even born until 3 years after that whole disaster. He's so confused about what's going on. But for real, he's crazy lucky to have this power back out of nowhere. In his last life, he got this power after absorbing the core from a monster that also had the coyote tail. Plus, another lucky break is that the younger you are when a power unlocks, the stronger it can get. To test it out, he turns his hand into a sharp blade and whacks his crib, and it bends instantly. In his past life, he awakened as an S-class when he was 7, but now, having this power as just a baby, he's got the potential to become a triple S ranker, a straight-up living legend. This was gonna be his ticket to getting rich, famous, and pulling all the hot girls. He was dead set on it. He decides it's pointless to stick around this house pretending to be some helpless baby, so he crawls off to start his new life. The crib he messed with earlier starts to fall, aimed right at him. Akan tries to dip, but his body totally betrays him and won't move. Finally, the metal frame snaps and starts to tip over. The last thing he sees before squeezing his eyes shut is his mom desperately running towards him in that split second. A memory hits him his past life, and that psycho master who put him through some messed up trials. That dude forced him to do humiliating things like eat dog food just to prove he was nothing more than a lapdog. Serving the organization, Akan grinds his teeth, totally pissed about being treated like that. He slowly opens his eyes as the first bit of sunlight hits his face. Looks like he passed out after taking down that monster. He sits up slowly and sees his mom nearby writing in a notebook. Looks like she managed to save him. But then a new question pops up. Why did he black out? It's pretty obvious the power from his ability is way too much for his tiny body. He only used it for like 30 seconds, but it was enough to leave him totally wiped and defenseless. For now, he needs to get stronger if he wants to control his powers again. While he's thinking about it, he hears his mom crying. He peeks at the notebook she's reading and sees it's covered in sticky notes. On one page, she's writing about how she almost lost her treasure. It's totally about him. Plus, she's got a nasty bruise on her back, probably from shielding him when the crib fell. His mom from his past life would have sold him to the organization for a quick buck without a second thought. But instead, this woman risked her life for him. He's kinda touched, so he reaches out one of his tiny hands to comfort her. And the second she feels it, she pulls him into a huge hug. It's clear this lady is nothing like the last one, which makes him decide to stick with her for a while. But even with this warm and fuzzy moment, the clock's ticking and the world's gonna flip in less than a week. The next monster's probably already on its way, and he needs to be able to fight for more than 30 seconds if he wants to protect his new home. Meanwhile, outside his apartment, a window washer is shaking in pain as some blue goo starts leaking from his eyes, mouth, and nose. That goo drips down, getting into the building's pipes and heading to a specific spot. At that exact moment, while Akan is plotting his next moves, his mom brings him something covered with a red blanket. She pulls it back to reveal a dog in a cage. She got it from a neighbor so the baby would have some company. Akan recognizes the dog right away. He remembers it from his past life. It was a mutt, a super fierce one, and he never thought he'd see it again in this life. Plus, the dog is way too big to be just a companion pet for a baby. Still, this could actually be a good thing for Chan. His mom, even though she's kinda clueless, sometimes comes in handy. If he trains the dog right, it could become a sick ally and even like a ride. Having a big dog might not be so bad after all. After all that, his mom cracks a smile, seeing the little smirk on his face, totally convinced. She made the right call and at least made him happy. Then she leaves them, alone to play while she gets back to her chores. Akan is just staring daggers at the dog, wondering what he's even supposed to do with it. For now, he knows it needs to be fed. First, he grabs a sausage from the kitchen and orders it to eat. If it does, then Akan will officially be its master, and the real training can begin. But even though the baby's trying to seal a deal with the dog, it seems like this pup is way too simple to get what's happening. When the dog leans down to grab the sausage, Akan puts a foot on its head to show it who's boss. But hey, even if the dog doesn't understand what the baby's saying, that doesn't mean it's gonna tolerate any disrespect. With two perfectly placed paws, it clocks him right in the face, sending the baby flying. Then it just turns to chow down on its sausage in peace, but Akan is not letting that slide. With a legit battle cry, he pounces on the dog, and the two start to roughhouse while his mom just laughs, amused by their antics. Looks like they're already becoming best buds. While she's cooking, she realizes she's all out of flour. As she bends down to look for more, some gnarly blue slime monster oozes out of the sink and rises up, right behind the dog and the baby who are still scrapping. It's heading straight for the mom who's still distracted, looking for another bag of flour. The slime monster gets huge and takes aim right at Akan's mom. In that split second, the dog springs into action and launches itself at the creature before it can attack. It gets there just in the nick of time to shove it into the cabinet under the sink, stopping the goo from reaching her. Luckily, his mom is totally oblivious to what's happening. While the monster and the dog are throwing down behind her, Akan's just watching the whole thing, looking super annoyed. The monster is way too weak to cause any real trouble, but it's still a pain to fight. Its liquidy form makes slashing and poking attacks completely useless, so he has to figure out another way to take it down. Meanwhile, his mom is trying to get out of the cabinet, but she's more worried about the bump on her head, not even noticing the insane battle raging behind her. Finally, the slime starts to swallow up the dog and begins to morph into something else. Akan knows he has to act fast, before the situation gets totally out of control. He remembers from his past battles that this type of monster is weak against anything dry, so he's got to find something to dry it out like immediately. He spots his baby bottle full of powdered milk, pops the top, and yeets it at the monster. The slime flinches and shrinks, bouncing all over the kitchen as it loses moisture. The powder has it in a total panic, and it's freaking out. Seizing the moment when the creature freezes, Akin traps it under a trash can. It seems like everything has finally chilled out, and both the dog and his mom peek their heads out from behind the counter. Right then, the mom accidentally spills flour all over them, making them look even more confused than they already were. Because of the flour disaster, his mom rushes to wash up before the mess ruins her clothes. Meanwhile, Akin is still soaking up the thrill of having actually caught a monster. He knows that slimes can totally be used as a natural monster repellent, which means if he can just spread that slime goo on the windows, it could be like a shield against future attacks. But then, out of nowhere, the trash can starts shaking, and the slime just yeets itself out from under it, using the quiet moment to make a break for it. The dog jumps in front of it before the slime can dip, and Akin bolts after it trying to snag it again. But even with all that, the little creature manages to slip away, completely dodging them like a pro. The slime even has the nerve to throw some shade at them both as it slips out the window. It just waltzed into their house, wrecked the place, and now it's trying to bounce like nothing happened, even though it's weak AF. That level of sass is just too much for them, and they're way too ticked off to let it get away with that. So Akin grabs a nearby umbrella like it's some kind of epic weapon and hops on the dog like it's his trusty steed. It's time to hunt this monster down before it gets too far and starts causing more trouble. They absolutely can't let it escape and leave a huge mess for them or anyone else to deal with. Once they get downstairs, they spot it chilling on top of another building. From up there, it starts dripping its goo right onto some girl's head who's just walking by. She looks up just in time to see the creature leap down, trying to totally eat her. Akin and the dog go full sprint to save her while the baby's trying to figure out a plan. If he uses his powers right now, he won't be able to hold off the slime for long. But if they let that thing munch on the girl, the whole place is going to turn into a gnarly scene something Akin's seen way too many times in his past life. Luckily, the dog is crazy fast and gets to the girl just in time, leaping over her as Akin pops open the umbrella to block the slime rain before it hits her. Still, the slime doesn't quit and just bounces off the umbrella, aiming its attack straight for the dog and the baby this time. Knowing he can only use his powers for like a second, Akin gets that he's got one shot to take this monster down like right now. He throws a super-powered punch, blasting straight through the slime and totally wrecking it in one hit. The thing just explodes and its goo rains down everywhere. It's totally defeated while Akin and the dog are left standing. Total champs after that quick fight. Good thing they got there just in the nick of time to save that girl before she became slime food. But she saw him use his powers and looks totally freaked out, without even hesitating. The girl just bolts down the street, not even looking back. Can't really blame her for running considering what she just saw. The real problem now, though, is figuring out how long it's going to take Akin to clean up this epic mess. Then all of a sudden, his tail pops out of his diaper and starts sucking up all the goo splattered on the street. Looks like he can actually absorb the powers of other monsters. Back in his old life, the only way he could get a new skill was by swapping out an old one, but now, his tail is straight up chugging the slime's goo, making its power his own. To test it out, he makes a glob of slime in his hand, and it totally looks like both his powers are vibing together, unlike in his past life. He tried super hard to switch up his skills as little as possible so the organization wouldn't catch on, which totally ended up being his L. Still, it's hella weird that Taui's tail just leveled up all on its own. It's probably 'cause of his age. Like the younger you are when you get your powers, the more OP your powers are, and the quicker you can get the hang of them. Kai started being able to use his skills at 10, but all the younger kids didn't make it. Most of the kids couldn't handle the monster goo, and just, clocked out as soon as they got a whiff of it. But now Kai is even younger than any of the old school candidates from his past life. That means his potential to glow up is off the charts. While he was plotting his next move, the doggo got him home safe and sound. Akin hops off his trusty ride and uses his new slime powers to coat the whole area. He's making sure no monsters creep up on his crib again. But just doing that totally drained his energy bar, and now he's completely wiped. In this state, it's pointless to even think about getting new skills or even getting used to the ones he's got, because his stamina is way too low-key to do anything useful with his current power set. Lucky for him, he doesn't have to stress too much about what's next. Because thanks to his slime shield, the monsters should leave them alone for a bit. Akin just faceplants on the floor, totally gassed. And the dog rolls up on him, giving him a majorly sus look. It really seems like the time has finally come for the dog to get its payback for that earlier embarrassment. The doggo leans in, snags him by the shirt collar. And for a sec, the baby thinks he's about to become dog chow. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, his mom gets out of the shower all fresh and clean from that flower mess she made earlier. She heads to the living room to check on her kid and finds him snuggled up with the dog on the floor. At first, it looks like they're cuddling. But for real, Akin is struggling hard to get out from under this dog that's pancaked on him. A few hours go by before the baby finally busts out of his fluffy prison and can finally get to work on fortifying the apartment. He manages to slime-proof the windows, the vents, and even the drain pipes with his special goo. That way, even if some major disaster goes down, the house will be safe for a minute. While he was doing all that, he also managed to scan the current status of his tail. Apparently, he can now hold up to 4 skills at once, which is a major upgrade from his past life, where he could only swap one for another. Right now, he can rock both the coyote tail and his slime powers, but only for 30 seconds. With a huge catastrophe on the horizon, he knows he needs to prep even harder. One of the first things that's a must-have for any apocalypse survivor is a good stash of supplies. The main reason people bit the dust after the disaster wasn't the monsters. It was starvation, because the supply chain totally collapsed, which led to a desperate free-for-all for food. If someone can manage to stocking up on supplies beforehand, and dodging drama could even get him a crew and some solid allies for when things get really gnarly. Akin's gotta get on that like yesterday, but being a baby, there's only so much he can do. The grocery stores are a total madhouse, and it's only a matter of time before those places are crawling with monsters. If just one person gets infected, the virus is gonna spread like crazy, with basically zero chance of stopping it. As he is now, Akin would totally get wrecked by a horde all by himself. Plus, there aren't many places he can hit up for supplies right now. While he's brainstorming other ways to score some gear later on, his mom's phone starts buzzing on the living room table. Akin scoots over to check who's calling and sees a bunch of messages blowing up the WhatsApp group chat. From the landlord. Lucky for him, the phone's not locked, so he can just swipe in and see what the tea is. The people in the group chat are all freaking out about some weird virus going around and how the infected are starting to turn into total monsters. It's super obvious they have no clue how serious this is about to get, and Ahan is more than ready to clue them in. He slyly makes an account and hops into the chat, warning them that a major disaster is coming and they need to stock up on everything like right now before it all goes sideways. Even though he's trying to help them out with some carefully worded instructions, it's pretty clear nobody's buying it. The fact that his account doesn't even have a profile pic since he just made it isn't helping his case. And as a baby, he can't do a whole lot, and online forums are basically useless at this point. At this rate, everyone's gonna be toast before the organization even gets off the ground. Then out of nowhere, a friend request pops up on the phone. He's curious, so he accepts it, and the person on the other end doesn't waste any time getting straight to the point. They say they want to make a deal if he's for real about needing supplies. The username is Yoto, and that handle sounds super familiar to the baby. That was the exact name of some chick who used to work for the organization in his past life, and his gut feeling is spot on. The person on the other end of the screen is in fact the same Yoto he remembers. In a room decked out with computers and all kinds of tech, she's just leaning back, all chill in her chair typing out messages. Looks like things are about to get super interesting for her. It's obvious that the person she's hitting up is super careful and won't make a deal without hearing her out first. The whole convo is already getting kinda messy, and they've barely even said anything to each other. So Yoto decides to just cut to the chase and makes him a straight-up offer, hoping to lock down the deal quick. She promises him all the supplies he could ever want: food, water, armor, whatever else he needs. The only thing with a price tag is the info, which she says is worth 100 million yen. But then she admits that getting stuff moved around is a huge pain for her too. So she suggests a trade. She'll give him the info he needs for a 20% cut of all the supplies he can get his hands on. Both her tone and that wild 100 million price tag sound like something a little kid would make up. Being real about it, there's no doubt. This person has to be the same Yoto he knew from the organization. Akan keeps the chat going, but he's super careful about it. And he straight up asks her why he should even trust her, on top of questioning why he'd take the deal in the first place. She claps back with another question like, would he rather become her enemy instead of her ally? She's making it clear she'd rather they be cool instead of fighting or being sus, and the baby knowing it'd be a dumb move. To start drama for no reason is like bet, and asks where the supplies are at. She spills that she stashed the info inside a mailbox on the ground floor of his building. Even though the organization isn't even a thing yet, Yoto is already proving she's a dangerous chick who manipulates info for her own gain. Once she locks onto a target, she uses every trick in the book to exploit them for everything they're worth. She has zero real intention of being friends with some dude she just met. She just wants to lure him in with info as bait for her trap. This time though, Akin ain't falling for it that easily. He's already onto her games, and he's gonna be the one pulling the strings, not her. First, he decides to crash and sleeps for 2 hours. When he wakes up, his energy is fully recharged and he's ready to go snag the intel. But there's a problem. The elevator has security cams, and he's definitely not trying to get his identity doxed that easily. So he turns his attention to the stairs. When he gets there, he realizes there's another roadblock: he's still a baby. And the stairs are pretty much impossible to climb with his current body. In that case, he's gotta trust his furry sidekick. He turns to the dog sleeping peacefully on the couch, knowing it's his only hope to get to the mailbox. Akan tries to wake him up by pulling his tail. But the dog is not in the mood. It smacks him with that same tail, sending him flying with a red cheek. And to think Akan believed he'd tamed the beast. It's obvious they're not exactly besties yet. However, Akan spots something on the counter in the kitchen that could help him out: a box of dog treats. He decides to use it as a bribe, pouring a few treats into his hand and holding them up to the dog's snout. In a matter of seconds, the pup is up and immediately accepts the deal. It seems like despite his fierce look, this mutt is pretty easy to please. With his ride secured, the next step is getting to the spot where Yoto left the information before his mom wakes up. Riding on the dog, he cruises through the building until he gets to the mailbox area. Inside one of them, a pink letter is sticking out, and no doubt that's his target. However, he also clocks something worrying: a camera is pointed right at the zone. It's obvious Yoto wants to use the camera to confirm his identity, and if that happens, his info will be sold instantly, making him lose all his leverage. Yoto doesn't mess with unknown people, so Akin has to keep his identity on the down low at all costs. In that case, he's got no choice but to throw her off. The baby activates his powers, sending out thin red tentacles all over the room and scanning the area for anything suspicious. Besides the building's security camera, he manages to spot 3 other hidden cams, most likely planted by her. It's crystal clear that Yoto is desperate to expose his identity. Meanwhile, in her control room that's packed with monitors, Yoto is laughing like crazy, waiting to see what fool is going to fall into her trap this time. But even though no one even gets close to the mailbox, she gets a ping from the dude she's chatting with. He's already snagged the info. She's freaking out, scrubbing through the camera footage, but all she sees is a dog just chilling by the mailbox. Little does she know her target is hiding right behind the pooch. He's totally hidden, trying to read the letter on the down low using a camera blind spot to his advantage. He manages to use his little buddy, his furry friend, as cover to sneak a peek at the flyer. Then he snatches the paper from the box and dips without anyone seeing him. The flyer is all about some special deal at a local supermarket, and it's pretty obvious that's where he's headed next. While he's checking out the flyer, Yoto starts blowing up his phone with texts demanding to know who he actually is. Akan just trolls her and texts back that he'll reveal his identity if she pays him 100 million yen. That comment totally sets Yoto off. She can't stand being clowned like that and decides this person is going to regret messing with her. Right away, she activates a spider-like surveillance drone hidden in a sewer and tells it to scan the whole building. This creepy crawly gadget has a camera and is also totally dust-proof and waterproof. It can handle crazy temps, magnets, high speeds, and even electric shocks. The robo-spider starts heading for Akan and the dog, but right before it gets to them, a fluffy slipper just completely flattens it. In 2 seconds, Yoto screams, cause her 30 million yen robot just got wrecked. And the person who did it none other than Akan's mom. She'd come down to find them since they'd been gone for a bit. And even though Yoto is bawling over her busted gadget, lucky for her, the audio is still working. She can hear some lady's voice coming through the speaker. Then it hits her that the call function is working too, which means they could totally hear her. So Yoto grabs the mic and tries to threaten whoever's on the other end, warning them that they haven't won yet. Just cause they squashed her spider. She tells them now that she's heard their voice, she can leak all their DMs and their shady past. All over the internet. She keeps trash talking, but nobody says anything back. Instead, the people on the other end just keep talking to each other, saying something about how their clothes are too thin and they might get sick. That's when Yoto realizes they can't hear her at all, and she's just been talking to herself this whole time. And to make things even worse, after doing some digging, even with all her connections and resources, she can't figure out who this person actually is. Whoever it is, they're a total ghost, and she's completely clueless. Meanwhile, Akan gets a comfy ride back to the apartment from his mom, who's giving him a lecture about going out alone and explaining how dangerous it is. The robo-spider is totally totaled and can only run at 4% capacity. Finally, Yoto hits up Akan again in surprise. She tells him she'll give him the info for free plus the supplies. Looks like she just gave up, and it's almost a letdown how easy she folded, especially after all the drama she caused. Back at the apartment, Akan gets saved from being grounded for sneaking out. His mom thinks the dog opened the door and that the baby just wandered out after still half asleep or something. He figures the dog's gotta stay behind for a bit, so he ties him up to stop any more drama. Yoto says this huge warehouse-style supermarket is about to open up, which basically means she's planning to hook him up with supplies she totally jacked from other people, which explains why she's being so down to help. It's kind of wild how generous she's being considering everything. If Akan's gonna get his stuff together, he needs to do it like yesterday. But first things first, he's gotta figure out how to even get to this supermarket in the first place. He left the flyer on the table so his mom would see it, but she's completely clueless and hasn't even noticed it's there. He can't just straight up tell her the world is ending, but he has to make a move while he's trying to come up with a plan. He overhears his mom say they're down to only 5 days worth of milk. Boom, perfect opening. And he can totally use that. He accidentally knocks over the milk on the table and then plays it off, like he was asleep when she comes over to check out the noise. While she's cleaning up his oopsie, his mom finally spots the supermarket flyer. She grabs it off the table and starts thinking, hey, maybe we should check this place out. It's all going according to Akan's plan. Finally, the day of the warehouse trip comes, and his mom dresses him in some pink outfit, which is super annoying for him. While they're out, the dog's back at the house, all set up with plenty of food. When they get to the supermarket, and right before they can even go inside, the security guard rushes over asking what they're doing there. He tells his mom that some nasty bug is going around and people are supposed to be on lockdown. She tries to tell him she just needs to grab some formula for her baby, but the guard isn't having it. He's some government dude, and Akan knows the government's about to be totally MIA, so they won't have to sweat this kind of stuff for much longer. The guard's just following orders and tells the lady she should head home. But while he's yapping at her, he has no clue that a monster is creeping up behind him until it slaps its hand right on his head. In a flash, the monster squeezes and the dude's head just pops like a gory water balloon. Then it turns to stare down the helpless mom and her kid. This thing is way bigger than anything Akan has ever gone up against before. Plus, it's one of those proliferative types, which means it doesn't have any obvious weak spots. Akan's trying to keep his powers on the down low for now. But if he doesn't use his powers, he and his mom are toast right here, right now. There's zero time to waste. And he's about to go beast mode when his mom yanks him out of the stroller and tries to make a run for it. Akan knows running is pointless. That monster is a whole different breed, way faster than any human. His mom has like zero chance of outrunning it. As the creature closes in, Akan spots a fire extinguisher case on the wall, and without even thinking he uses his powers to shatter it. The case bursts open, shooting out a cloud of gas that fogs up the whole area. The distraction is all Akan needs to break free from his mom's grip and nail the monster, sending it flying straight into a wall. He's got about 30 seconds before the dust clears and he has to take this monster down before his mom comes to. She got knocked out from the initial shock, so he's got to handle business before she wakes up. Lucky for him, she's still out cold from the impact. But the clock is ticking. This proliferative thing has its core in its head. If he can just land a direct hit on that spot, that monster was supposed to be toast. But nah, the thing is still standing even after Akan landed the first hit. He's got to make sure he takes it out with one clean shot before it gets up and hurts him or his mom. This time there are no shortcuts, no cheats, no outside help. He's got to face it straight up with his own strength. Lucky for him, he can at least stand up now. He doesn't even have to crawl anymore. The monster makes the first move and lunges at the kid, but Akan manages to juke it just in time. Then he uses his power to slice up the monster with these super thin threads from his toad ability. He didn't manage to clap it though, but at least he made it bleed with that heavy-duty attack. NGL, the situation is not looking good right now, but Akan is totally convinced he's the one who's gonna win. He runs in to attack the monster again, sure that this time he can at least fight it on even ground. Thanks to his tiny body, he easily dodges most of the attacks and uses the threads from his toad ability to swing around the enemy and completely wrap it up. The second he lands, he yanks the threads hard, slicing the monster to pieces in a flash. Looks like he's got the advantage now, but he still needs to land a direct hit to the head if he wants to finish it for good. Luckily for him, his opponent's massive size makes it tough to hit a baby that's moving so fast. Plus, the monster can't even use all its strength, since it's forced to move super fast, and that's limiting its power. For this creature, it's like trying to catch a mouse at full speed. Eventually, Akan manages to beat it with his speed and smarts, weakening it so bad it can barely move. This is all thanks to the combat experience he's built up. From his past life to now, because of his constant attacks, the monster's power has been seriously nerfed, and just one more hit should be enough to finish it. He can't get cocky though, because even though the enemy is super weak, it still has enough strength to rip one of the spikes off its back and launch it with insane power. Akan barely dodges the attack, but the spike still slices his forehead open. He jumps back, putting some serious distance between him and the monster before it can launch another projectile like that. If it keeps attacking that way, the baby won't have the chance to get in close for the final blow. For now, he needs to think of another strategy, maybe a surprise attack or some way to distract it. Time is not on his side either, since he's gonna start feeling the side effects from overusing his powers any minute now. For now, the best move might be to run and get his mom out of there before she gets hurt. While he's still figuring out what to do, he realizes his mom is awake now, desperately looking for him from downstairs. Looks like his time ran out faster than he expected. She's obviously confused and starts looking for him everywhere. And suddenly she comes face to face with the monster. She stares at it, her eyes wide open, completely shocked. Instead of running, she reaches into her pocket to pull something out. Akan screams at the top of his lungs, begging her to run, 'cause he knows she can't take on that beast by herself. But like any good main character's mom, she's got a few tricks up her sleeve too. She whips a stun gun out of her pocket and blasts the monster, zapping it hard and leaving it completely paralyzed. Okay, so it's a super sketchy plan, but it's the exact distraction the baby was waiting for. Akan just dives off the top of the building straight down to the streets. Just as the monster gets its bearings, it throws a massive claw swipe that sends his mom flying backwards. She slams onto the ground, conveniently turning her back to the creature. Right then, Akan drops in from the sky with a mega attack, totally determined to take out this piece of trash once and for all. The monster looks up just in time to see a baby with like a massive energy buildup in his leg. Dropping at full speed, the attack smashes right into the creature's head, splitting it wide open and killing it on the spot. His mom is still out cold on the ground when the baby goes to check on her. Even though he's not totally sold on her yet, he has to admit that things would have been way more dangerous without her. Not only did she come looking for him in the middle of all this chaos, but she also risked her own neck to protect him. She's still got a long way to go before she's useful to him, but at least it seems like he can count on her. Right when he thinks that the side effects from his power kick in, and he totally collapses right next to her, passing out too. When he finally comes to way later, he sees he's got a bandage on his head, and some strange dude with red eyes is changing his diaper. Akan doesn't recognize him at all, so as a gut reaction, he just pees on the guy to try and scare him away. His mom comes rushing over to say she's sorry, worried the guy's gonna get ticked off. But he just calmly wipes his face, admitting that he totally spooked the kid, and that's why he reacted like that. Then he asks the mom if she's vibing with the dog, which pretty much means she knows this guy. All signs point to him being the mutt's old owner, and she thanks him for watching out for him. What's really bugging Akan, though, is the fact that his mom literally saw the monster that attacked them with her own 2 eyes. But she's acting like nothing even went down. Then he notices her hair is damp, which probably means she was crying again in secret while he was passed out. In the middle of all this, the dude tells the mom that they're about to head out for a supply run and asks if she wants to tag along. That offer definitely gets Akin's attention, since he knows that grabbing supplies with other people and hoarding them is actually a super solid plan. But before he joins their crew, he's got one thing left to do: grab the crystal core from the monster he just wrecked. He hops out of his stroller and zips over to what's left of the creature. When he uses his toad tail to suck up the core, he immediately scores the monster's power. This time it's a hardening ability that fuses straight into his bloodstream. Not a bad power-up, and now he can use his tail like a shield. Right when he's about to head back to his stroller, he spots that strange guy from earlier on a phone call. He's talking to someone and mentions that both he and his mom are a total drag, and the only reason he's taking them is to use them as bait in case of an emergency, so they're at least a little bit useful. It's super obvious that this guy is completely unhinged and has bad vibes. He tells the person on the other end of the phone to take another vehicle to gather more supplies, and as Akin overhears everything, he accidentally bumps the truck he's hiding behind, making the guy whip around immediately. Ready to throw down with whoever was spying on him, he creeps up prepped to face a threat. But when he sees it's just a baby, he chills out and pats his head. He gives Ahan a little pat and asks how he even got there, then gets back on his call and mentions the baby heard everything, but says it's whatever cause he's just a kid, and if they had to take him out, it'd be no biggie. Akin looks down, feeling uneasy. Realizing the guy is totally unhinged, they all pile into the car a little later. His mom buckles him into a car seat in the back. They get ready to roll out with the guy and 3 other people packed inside the ride. Akin has zero faith in this psycho being the one to drive, but he's got no way to stop it. If he could just unleash his power, he'd totally wreck the guy in a second and show him who's really in charge. The other passengers start to get to know each other. His mom tries to break the ice by offering them some snacks. It's super weird that everyone seems so calm. With everything that's going down in the world, Akin wonders if they've even seen actual footage of the monsters. Or why would anyone even want to leave their house right now? The guy starts the car and gives a nod to the manager of their apartment complex. As they drive off, Akin gets that this whole lack of reaction thing might just be how they're coping. I mean, even if people see monsters or dead bodies, it's not always enough to convince them the world is actually ending. All they can do is act normal and try to play off how terrified they are. As they cruise through the city, Miss Lin pulls out a box of sandwiches to share. She passes them to everyone in the car. They're all from the same building as Ahan and his mom. There's his mom, Lin Jingyu, from apartment 502, then Denku from 103, and finally Ryuku Kaizen from 104. His mom keeps offering snacks super nicely as they head to the supermarket. Then at one point, Ryuku Kaizen asks his mom how she pulls off raising a kid alone, especially since she's so young and cute. And with how jacked up everything is. He also says that taking a baby out on the streets like this is crazy dangerous. His mom confesses that at first she thought about leaving Akin at home, but she's noticed that every time she leaves him by himself, he starts going totally wild. After giving it a lot of thought, she decided to bring him. Akin, cringing at the conversation, mentally screams at her to stop talking while she sighs. And she thinks about all the drama her son has caused in the last few days. One of the guys up front is Shin Minoru. He's the resident from apartment 504. The driver mentions that Lin's actually been pretty clutch in a fight, especially after she took down a massive monster with a taser. They also brought the dog in the back of the truck following them, which is like extra backup just in case something goes down. Akin's mom, though, has no memory of what really happened. She has no clue that her son was the one who did all the heavy lifting. As they keep on driving through the city, the driver starts to notice something feels off. There should be way more monsters in this area, but the place is creepily deserted. And then boom! Some person is just booking it down the road, clearly looking for help while this woman is running for her life. She's desperate to find a place to hide when a wall nearby just explodes and a giant hand shoots out right at her. In the blink of an eye, a bunch of monsters swarm her and slam her to the ground, and the driver's yelling at everyone to hold on. Hold on tight while he's trying to swerve the car to avoid plowing into the monsters and the girl. Both our car and the truck right behind us drift hard to dodge the little horde, managing to get past without a scratch. The dog is going ballistic in the back seat as the monsters just pounce on the girl, crushing her to the ground. She's screaming for help, but nobody can get close without risking their own neck. This day has been totally insane ever since Ahan and his mom left the house. Now they're completely surrounded by monsters, and Ahan takes a second to scope out the situation. He notices that all the bug-headed monsters have these stinger marks on their necks. That can only mean one thing. The one controlling these creatures has to be some kind of cyborg. The parasitic manipulators are a type of monster that are symbiotic with the power to turn humans into cyborgs. Even though one-on-one they're not a huge threat. In big groups, they become a major problem. As long as the main controller keeps moving, the monsters will just keep multiplying. The best thing they can do is find a way to bail immediately. But the other monsters that aren't dogpiling the girl start closing in on the car, getting ready to attack. They're way too close for the driver's comfort, and in a matter of seconds, one of them smashes the windshield. Akin is watching the whole thing, and he knows they can get out of this alive, but he needs to make them back off. before their numbers get overwhelming. Too bad he can only use his powers for 30 seconds. And if he wastes them here, he's going to be in some serious trouble. He looks around wondering if any of the other passengers can actually fight. Ryuko is looking desperately at the girl who's getting totally wrecked and eaten by the monsters, and she screams at the others to stop wasting time and go save her. That attitude immediately pisses Akan off because he realizes this woman is just going to be dead weight down the line. Instead of finding a solution or helping, she just screams for other people to save her. In that state, it'd be better to just leave her behind, since she's clearly no help in a fight. Minoru chimes in saying they shouldn't even try to rescue her because she's already got the same wound on her neck as all the monsters, which means she's definitely a goner. Minoru's got a good eye even though he's probably way too old to be useful in a brawl. Hopefully he can at least carry supplies. The driver asks if they should just dive right into the fight, but he warns that if they're gonna do it, they have to deal with the monsters first, or they're all toast. Akan is not a fan of that suggestion, and he suspects that the driver is more interested in starting a bloodbath than actually saving anyone. He's not someone you can trust when things get real. The driver of the truck behind them, probably Denku, grabs something heavy from inside his truck and says he'll help any way he can, even though he looks like a total coward. He might be one of those characters who just snaps and goes crazy in the middle of a fight. He's trying to prove he's not scared, but it's super obvious they're not clutch. At this point, it looks like no one in the ride can actually handle these monsters swarming us. Akan's mom dips into her purse and pulls out that taser she used earlier. Seeing that, Denku flips the script and is like, NVM, I don't need to dip, I got this. But like, while everyone's distracted, something sharp just blasts through the car and nails Denko right in the chest. In like 2 seconds, her body gets yeeted out of the car like she's a rag doll or something. Right after these psycho-sharp claws dig into the side of the car, and this whole different bug monster pokes its creepy head inside, immediately shanking Ryuko and killing her on the spot. It's totally giving "this is the main baddie" vibes, the one controlling the cyborgs. It was probably just lurking this whole time, waiting for the perfect moment to jump him. Since there's literally no one trustworthy in the car, looks like the baby's gotta step up and handle business. But just as he's about to get up, a sharp stinger comes flying right at his mom. He's not fast enough to stop it. But instead of going through her, the stinger randomly gets stuck in the seat cushion. When they look to the front of the car, everyone's shook to see Minoru holding the monster back, stopping it from attacking. Minoru is like crazy chill. He clocks that he's facing the final boss of all these monsters. The thing spins around and tries to stab him in the face, but Minoru just grabs the stinger and snaps it with his bare hands. Okay, so this dude is definitely not a regular guy. He just shut down the main monster. With no weapons at all. The creature shrieks as the old guy jams its own stinger right into its neck. Finally, the screaming stops and the monster dies. Minoru just tosses the body out the door and lets it drop onto the street while wiping blood off his face. He starts complaining about being tired and getting old, and Akan's just watching in awe, realizing this old dude is actually a total beast. But he quickly gets that the fight isn't over yet. The monster on the ground starts going into its second phase, so nobody can chill just yet. Akan has no clue who this guy really is, but he knows that just going for the heart isn't going to be enough to take it down. And just like he was afraid of, the monster starts getting back up, ready to throw down again. Since Akan can't talk to warn him, he's only got one move left. He screams his lungs out, making the old guy turn around just in time to dodge a sneak attack. Minoru instantly recognizes this type of monster. He's fought one before back when he was part of the Special Combat Division. That explains why he's so strong and on point. The guy hops out of the car and goes straight for the monster to finish it once and for all. Looks like this thing can't be taken down the normal way. So Minoru decides to go all out. He grabs its head and just slams his knee right into its face. The skull literally cracks open on impact. Just from those moves, you can tell his fighting skills are legit. And his choice to go straight for the head was instant, totally from his military training. Akan should have peeped it earlier. This guy's skills are on a whole other level. In his past life, back when he was just a pawn for the organization, Akan heard whispers that after the government fell, the military turned into the biggest resistance crew fighting the monsters. Even though it was already gone when he started his mission, he knew the Special Combat Division was basically the heart of that resistance, and they were a total pain for the organization, all thanks to the old guy's hustle. Now they can finally keep rolling to the supermarket and snag the supplies they're seriously desperate for. His mom suggests they just head back home, but Manolo is like, no way, immediately shutting it down and warning that if they bail now, something way worse could happen. They've got to keep moving. For once, it looks like they have someone solid on their squad, but now Akan has to scheme on how to make sure he's got that guy on his side for good. Maybe he could cook up a fake military order, or even blackmail Yodo into giving him some top-secret info, or maybe just latch onto the old guy and force him to be their protector. Just the thought of using the old guy for his own personal gain makes Akan crack a sneaky smile as he plots his next move. Meanwhile, the old man pats his head and tells Miss Lin to stick close to him, her and Akan, so he can protect them better. She's immediately on board and promises not to be a burden. She assures him she'll follow his every move. He tells her not to expect too much since he's really just trying to help them out. She thanks him for saving them earlier by taking down that monster boss, but he just tells her it's no big deal. I mean, for real, if Akan hadn't started bawling right at that moment, he would have been toast from that monster's attack. Then he turns. So it sounds like the old dude totally read his selfish thoughts from a minute ago, so he just crosses his arms like, fine, whatever. The baby decides to just chill and take the guy's help. Even though he knows Minoru's goody two-shoes vibe might get them wrecked, they finally get there. They get to the supermarket they were working so hard to reach from the jump, but to their surprise, the gate's locked. Everything's pointing to it being closed for the day, even though the sign straight up said the supermarket would be open. But the place is obviously shut down. Akan's getting sus thinking Yoto was the one who locked it up from afar using her hacker skills. Then all of a sudden, the gate pops open and the driver explains he's got a friend who opened it remotely. As he's saying this, he flashes a smile and shows them his phone, hinting they should thank his buddy later. That makes Ahan even more sus, so he quickly snags his mom's phone out of her purse and starts scrolling through the messages. He sees that Yoto just sent a message saying she spotted the car on the security cameras and that she was the one who opened the gate. That bombshell confirms it. The driver knows Yoto. Now everything's getting complicated because both Yoto and the driver are people who are super sketchy in his book. They finally head into the supermarket, and even though they're dead tired, they've finally reached their spot. The supermarket is huge and totally loaded with supplies in the stockroom. On top of that, there are no cameras in the area, which totally puts Akan at ease since he can use his powers without stressing about being found out. Then he spots that the old dude brought a whole rack of weapons with him, which is kind of what you'd expect from a soldier in the Special Combat Division. But as soon as they get inside, the dude who'd been guiding them the whole trip has totally ghosted. All of a sudden, there is no store staff around either, so there's like no way to actually buy or check out with anything. While they're trying to figure out what to even do in the warehouse, a clapping sound just echoes from another part of the building. They look up and see the driver who's now got this hella smug smile wrapping his knuckles on some nearby boxes. Then he straight up declares that everything in the store has already been claimed by his org. The moment Kai was dreading just became real. The guy in front of him is without a doubt a member of the organization. Even Kai's dog picks up on the vibe and starts barking its head off. The driver, totally showing his true colors, admits he just played them to get into the supermarket. And now that he's got what he came for, it's time to ditch them like they're trash. As he's going on this whole villain speech, Kai spots a tattoo on the dude's arm, a dead giveaway that he's with the org. With a super grim look, the dude proclaims that the supermarket now belongs to the East Odo Society, his voice dripping with threat. His warning is aimed especially at the old military dude. He pulls a piece out of his pocket and orders them not to make a move. The name of that society totally gets Kai's attention. He knows this chapter isn't just some random crew. They're a frontrunner group in charge of running the so-called House Project. This crew was already out here doing dirt, even before the calamity kicked off, which is totally why they're hoarding supplies. They can already sense the disaster that's about to drop. Now it all clicks, including that bad vibe Kai was getting from the driver's cocky attitude. But whoever this dude thinks he is, Kai is so ready to take him down. Meanwhile, Lin and the old man are catching on to how serious this is real quick, and they spot the goons surrounding them. Luckily, the old guy is already on it. Without even thinking, he grabs a shovel and just yeets it at the nearby generator, jamming it right into the machinery that looks like it could blow any second, which causes this threatening echo that rumbles through the whole place. But the driver doesn't even flinch, staying super calm, which the vet totally clocks. The next second, the dude cracks this confident smirk and pulls out a remote to turn on the supply cart. The old guy, realizing he's losing his grip on the situation, makes a move to stop him but gets cut off at the last second by a pile of boxes that sends him flying back. When he gets back up, he's staring right down the barrel of a piece pointed at his face. The organization member lets out a huge laugh and tells him there's no way he's letting some military vet slip away that easy. As he's telling him not to move, something wild happens. Lin steps up, weapon in hand, telling him to back off or she'll light him up, at the same time demanding to know what he's really after. The guy, who's clearly amused, totally clowns on her for being so clueless and not getting the situation until now. And he sarcastically asks if she'd still think he was innocent even after he put one in her. Lin, still stuck in her little bubble of hope, suggests they share the supplies like it's some kind of pop-up picnic, which makes the guy actually laugh out loud at how naive she is. Then he reminds her, turns out he didn't just dump the dog on her to be nice, because when he went to get his cash, the owner was already gone. So he was just gonna ditch the dog, and right then she shows up and he thought it'd be hilarious to see how she'd handle it, trying to raise a full-grown dog and a baby at the same time. Low-key, it all worked out back then, but now he's got his piece out, making it super clear there's no sharing. He's all like, there's just not enough to go around, fam. Instantly, his whole crew pulls out their heaters, and the boss straight up says that weak people like Lin should just get wiped. That totally triggered a messed up flashback for me from when I was under the thumb of that organization, forced to eat rats just to survive and getting treated like absolute trash. Yeah, just like right now. Kai's dog senses the bad vibes and gets ready to throw down, and the baby just yeets his goo. All that slime right at the generator, causing a total blackout. The whole room goes dark while the boss starts shouting for them to hold their fire till they can see again. Just then the old dude raises his piece, but Kai, using all the chaos, powers up and goes to deck him. But the old guy beats him to it and just boots the boss hard, totally shocking the baby and even himself. They just lock eyes, and Kai gets it. It was a huge mistake getting spotted by an ex-military dude, since he could be seen as some kind of freak and end up as a lab rat. The old man, no surprise, is thinking the exact same thing, wondering if the baby is actually some kind of freaky creature. Seeing the old dude is about to make a move, Kai zips up to a high shelf right in his blind spot. The old man flicks on his flashlight, and even though Kai was thinking about turning on his own light, he decides against it to stay hidden. He's totally scowling, knowing he's got no choice now but to take the old guy out first. But then his whole plan gets wrecked by some random noise that suddenly gets everyone's attention. They look up and see this big glob of goo that totally throws them off. With this wicked little smirk, Kai just gets comfy in his shopping cart and gets ready to watch the drama unfold. And to his shock, the goo morphs into a perfect copy of the old guy, transforming into a clone. A dead ringer that attacks him right away. In like 2 seconds, everyone's fighting their own doppelganger. The old guy's cussing under his breath, seeing his twin right in front of him as he gets ready to brawl. Lynn, totally freaked, is begging her clone to back off, which catches the old dude's attention, who looks over at the cart and sees Kai crying his eyes out, while the clone tries to get to him, figuring the kid's seen this thing before. The old man just dives in and attacks the clone right as it's about to snatch the kid. But he gets so cheesed when he sees the creature just heals itself instantly, thanks to its gooey nature. Realizing just wailing on it won't work, he tosses his shovel and decides to switch up his game plan, falling back on some smarter tactics for these kinds of enemies. He quickly pops open his weapons case and pulls out a handgun. Meanwhile, Lynn manages to zap her clone with a taser, cause like everyone knows, electricity is a major weakness for slime monsters. For his part, Kai also takes out his double by just going ham on it with a ton of attacks. Another solid way to deal with these things. Finally, the old dude torches his clone with some serious fire, showing he's a total pro. But hold up, the fight's not even close to over. Another goo clone jumps Lynn, but the old guy intercepts it with a clean shot. Bullseye right on time, but the thing's still kicking and trying to pull itself back together as he keeps on, blasting it with no chill until it's totally wrecked. At the same time, the boss who was knocked out gets back on his feet right when the old guy is still busy dealing with the slime, which leaves Kai in a super tight spot. Frustrated, the little dude knows he can't just flex his powers out in the open, since that would totally blow his cover. Suddenly, the boss ambushes him, taking him hostage and threatening Alin and the old man to drop their weapons. What this clown doesn't get is that with that move, he just made things way easier for our clever baby. Low-key, he fires up his slime power and totally hijacks one of the boss's goons. The dude suddenly pulls the pin on a grenade, and in just a few seconds, a massive explosion rocks the whole place. The boss somehow survives the blast, though, and he's still got a grip on the baby. Kai uses all the chaos to whip out his tail and slickly swipe a grade 1 crystal core without anyone even seeing it. Super messed up and totally bugging out, the boss bolts into another room and slams the door behind him, looking for a place to hide. Inside, a bunch of his crew are waiting, and without wasting a second, he tells them to get the car ready, cause they're about to dip. Right then, Kai spots a tattoo on the guy's neck, and instantly it all just clicks. This guy is none other than the leader of the organization, the very same one who turned his past life into a living hell. Back then, Lai always rocked a mask, so Kai never actually saw his face. And now as a baby, he's got a front row seat. His baby stare gets so intense that even Lai feels it and shoots him a salty look. In that moment, a red fog starts to fill the room. It's the Crimson Dust, some seriously deadly stuff in this world full of catalysts that either mutates or straight up wrecks any human who breathes it in. Next thing you know, a bunch of Lai's crew start morphing into these gnarly beasts and go on the attack. Being the total psycho he is, Lai decides to use Kai as bait, and with zero remorse, just yeets him into the room with the monsters so he can escape. But Kai's already onto his plan and is totally ready to unleash his true power, even if people are watching. He whips the core out of his pocket and powers it up, instantly transforming into a full-grown warrior who's ready to throw down. The closest monster lunges at him, but his tentacles block the attack, no sweat. Now that he's fused with the crystal core, his skills are on a whole other level, so insane that the monsters can barely even hold their shape around him. One of them tries to hit him with a laser from its eye, but Kai just walks straight at it, not even flinching, going right through the beam and piercing the enemy's body. It's a total cakewalk. He's almost vibing with how easy it is to move his body now, while his tentacles glide around with deadly precision, dicing up the creatures like they're veggies on a cutting board. Meanwhile, Lai is just watching the whole scene, getting more and more freaked out with no clue what is even happening. He totally missed the baby-to-warrior glow-up, and his pale face is a dead giveaway of his confusion. Kai's satisfied, realizing Lai still hasn't recognized him, which makes this whole situation way more epic. He moves forward with a dark, determined look, no doubt about it, because it's payback time. Even though you can see the pure terror in his eyes, Lai reacts fast, pulls out his piece, and starts shooting. But Kai is already faster than bullets. Even though this body he's rocking now isn't his OG form, it's a huge upgrade from his baby version. Dude's speed and agility just went beast mode. He closed the gap in a flash, like he's barely 1 centimeter from his enemy's face. Lee barely has time to think he's up against a total monster before Kai shuts him down, not even letting him get a word out, and with just one move. He yeets him across the room and slams him into a corner. Spit and blood start pouring out of Lee's mouth as he mumbles something about some story he once heard, and now he gets that it was for real. Kai's like, who's he talking about, for a sec, but there's no time to dwell on it. All of a sudden, Lee whips out a syringe and juices himself with some weird liquid, and legit, in seconds his body starts twisting up all gnarly. He's morphing into this monstrous thing, and watching it happen, Kai instantly gets what's going on. Way before the Great Catalyst, the organization was already messing with this stuff, a formula made to turn people into monsters, but without making them lose their minds. As the creature bulks up, you can totally see the fear on Kai's face. Just as the beast goes feral and lunges at him, Kai barely manages to block the hit and instantly claps back with his tentacles. But after that first exchange, he realizes this ain't some low-level threat. The monster just keeps coming at him no chill. It's throwing down with silver tentacles that Kai just barely dodges. With every move it's getting super obvious this creature was designed to trap him from the get-go. A chill runs down his spine when he realizes he's facing the exact same monster that iced him in his past life. But this time things are different. He's not that same helpless dude anymore. And there's no way he's gonna die by this beast's hands again. So with a fresh burst of resolve, he dodges every single attack totally focused, with this fierce defiant energy. Then out of nowhere, a massive explosion blasts the monster, and when the dust clears, Kai spots the old military dude reloading his piece with bullets jacked from the Eastern Lotus Society. Kinda ironic, you know, using the enemy's own weapons to do the right thing. While the old guy lays down fire on the monster with the giant eyes, who's none other than Lee in his freaky beast form. Kai can't help but crack a huge grin, realizing the tables have totally turned. And this time they're in his favor. Meanwhile, Lee's having a flashback to when he first joined the organization. Some rep sold him on these stories about a disaster that was about to go down, promising him that linking up with the organization was the only way to make it out alive. Then the guy gave him like a welcome gift, claiming it would show him his true self. And even though Lee wasn't buying it back then, because he thought he already knew who he was, but after he shot up the compound and woke up his inner monster, he realized the dude was right. He was basically born to prey on other people's weaknesses. Even as a kid, he was always playing mind games. Like this one time he told some bigger lady her husband was stepping out on her, and then to really twist the knife. Said he heard the guy call her a lazy pig. Just to prove his point. It made her go off on her husband, and after the big blow-up he bounced and she just spiraled into self-hatred. And that's when Lee swooped in, all sweet talk and promises of a fresh start. Totally reeling her in. That's just how Lee operates with that predator's instinct of his. He became a straight-up monster in a human suit. And that's why he's now been reborn as a level 4 monster called Trickster Lee. Up to this point, everything Kai's seen has just been a hallucination. A total mind freak cooked up by Lee's fear and manipulation tactics. Lee hasn't even been trying for real, just waiting for the perfect moment to strike and get the W. But then out of nowhere, a bullet slams into him and totally shocks him. Seeing the old dude is still down to throw down, Lie gets totally pissed at his resilience and just goes berserk. But the vet stays ghosted, hitting him from the shadows without giving up his spot, so Lie rushes him again. This time, though, his attack gets met with a bunch of explosions that kick up this massive cloud of smoke and dust. It makes it impossible to see, and using the confusion, Kai goes into full-on stealth mode. He gets right in his blind spot, and when he attacks Lai, totally freaks, realizing Kai actually broke free from the illusion. Way too fast. Kai pushes forward without a second thought, yelling that he's nothing but a level 4 poser. Just some nobody who'll never be anything special. Then he unleashes his tentacles on a freaking out Lai. Lai is cussing out the tentacles, trying to get the upper hand by trapping Kai in another one of his mind tricks. But this time his power totally fails. Frustrated, he remembers how Kai fell for it before, but now Kai's low-key grateful for that rough lesson as he unleashes his full power. You can see the pure terror on Lai's face. Kai just blitzes him at full speed, and even though the fraud barely manages to defend himself, he's bleeding like crazy after the hit. Kai, playing it cool, asks him if he's had enough, even though he knows this is just getting started. 'Cause in just 2 hours, another wave of that crimson dust is gonna hit a twisted wave that's gonna open the gates of hell. It's gonna be a disaster like nothing before. Getting ready for the final blow, Lai tries to stop him, but Kai is solid. He says he's not interested in hearing his final words. Meanwhile, the old guy is just watching it all unfold, and Kai realizes that Lai is still a serious threat. A tough opponent who's still down to fight even with his injuries, so he decides to end him right there, aiming for his neck. But right when he's about to strike, he gets caught in another illusion. His mom appears, begging him not to take her out too. That single moment of doubt costs him big time, because he gets hit by a series of explosions that stop him from landing the hit. Using the opening, Lai launches another attack, and Kai barely dodges it. It's super obvious this fight is far from over. As he gets up, Lai smugly tells him he'll never be able to kill him. He claims he can read his thoughts now, and see his every move, adding that Kai only has one attack left. For a second, Kai thinks about just letting the old dude finish the job. But it's like Lai read his mind, because he dodges a bullet from the old man and starts clowning him, asking if he's just gonna stand there like always. Kai curses under his breath, realizing normal weapons are useless against a level 4 monster. Lai, getting more and more confident, says he can see through all the old man's tricks with this creepy laugh, calling himself a god. He heads to where the old dude is hiding, but the second he steps on the spot, a grenade the vet planted there blows up. It leaves him all messed up. Seeing Lai weakened, Kai gives the old man props for his quick reflexes and wonders where he is now. Like he was answering the thought, the old man pops up right behind Lai, ready to go in for the kill. But he reacts in time and dodges the blow. Just as he's about to counter, Kai yells his name to distract him, totally surprised. Lai's like, "Yo, wanna see your future?" And while the dude's totally bugging, the old guy just blasts him right then and there. A crazy vision just floods Lai's brain, showing him always stuck dealing with a bunch of weaklings, like forever being a total nobody. And it shows him a future where he's never gonna be the main character. Totally pissed, Lai just grabs his head, freaking out and denying everything. But then, boom, another vision hits. This time, he sees himself kneeling in front of everyone looking super lame. He just can't handle this fate, so he goes totally wild and attacks, but in his rage, he ends up messing himself up. Next thing you know, everyone's just staring completely shook as Lai takes himself out of the game. Watching this whole scene go down, Kai just smirks, totally satisfied. He finally played the biggest player of them all as Lai hits the deck. In his last few seconds, he gets a flash of Kai's memories, and his eyes go wide with pure terror when he realizes what kind of monster he's facing. Then he's screaming his head off like, "Kai, get out of my head!" And with his last breath, he drops this bomb. That this is the real tea behind that warning about the baby. The old man looks over at Kai, super curious, and Lai, with his voice all shaky, keeps going, saying that Kai is the egg of calamity, which leaves everyone totally floored. Both the kid and the old guy are just speechless. Lai warns him that by starting this whole revolution, he's basically thrown away any shot at a normal life. Because from now on, the organization is going to be on his tail 24/7. But before he can spill any more tea, a gunshot suddenly shuts him up for good. Kai and the old guy whip around to where the shot came from and spot a new character, hopping out of a jeep, explaining all chill-like that if you don't take out your enemy when you have the chance, that enemy ends up becoming you. The second Kai clocks that this dude is military, he's instantly on high alert. This new guy calls the old man master, giving him props for teaching him that exact lesson, and introduces himself as Captain Leon, but everyone knows him as the Snow Wolf. Before the master and his student can even do a proper hello, another monster pops up behind Leon, but without even flinching, he just wastes it instantly. This leaves Kai, who's watching the whole thing go down from behind a box, completely blown away. Right then, the old man tells Leon he came here for a reason. 'Cause he wants to go home and look after his granddaughter. Leon whips out his phone and basically begs him to come back to HQ, telling him they're in a state of emergency. He shows him a pic of his granddaughter, who's totally fine, reminding him that the army needs its commander. Hearing this, it finally clicks for Kai that the old man is none other than the top dog of the entire army. Then, Leon asks if he wants to check for himself that his granddaughter is safe, and the old guy just nods. Meanwhile, Kai is totally freaked out and has no clue what to do. He makes a move and catches both of their eyes, and in a flash, Leon already has his weapon aimed right at him. Luckily, Kai switched back to his baby form just in the nick of time. Leon, being all slick, asks if he's the monster he saw a minute ago, while Kai is shaking in his boots, terrified he's about to get blasted. Until the old man steps in and says he's the one who put the baby there. As he scoops him up in his arms, he whispers to Kai to keep up the act, and the kid starts wailing just like a real baby. Leon's like, he plays the part of a baby pretty well. But still, Kai picks up on a weird vibe coming from Leon, and checks him out closely, wondering if he's seen this guy somewhere before. Back with the organization, Kai gets dropped in this nursery with a bunch of other babies when the nurse plops him in the crib. Leon tells her to bounce, and she just does no questions asked. Kai's faking being asleep, hearing the whole thing, wondering where the old dude is and what kind of sketchy place this is. Suddenly, another baby starts crying, catching Leon's attention, who first talks all soft about its energy. But then his whole vibe switches, and he uses his power to put the baby to sleep. Seeing this, Kai is totally horrified. Kai remembers that Leon is a big shot in the organization known by the codename Tank. And he's got this super rare and dangerous power. He can mess with anyone's blood and make them pop whenever he wants. He knows Leon didn't just put the baby to sleep. He knocked it out by cutting off its oxygen. For real, this is someone Kai has to watch out for. Kai's thinking about his own powers, which he unlocked way too early considering the organization is just getting started. He wonders if he's one of the few compatibles who managed to activate their powers before the apocalypse. Just then, Leon decides to check him out and tells him to be quiet. Kai holds his breath the entire time he's being inspected. As soon as Leon backs off, the kid breathes a sigh of relief. Before leaving, Leon mutters about how fun this all is. The second he's gone, Kai makes sure the coast is clear and immediately hops up. He remembers Lai as a total con artist who could mess with minds, and knows he's got this OP divine absorption skill that puts up a mental shield protecting his thoughts. To shield himself from Leon too, he adjusts his blood flow, slowing it down, letting the fake blood get absorbed automatically. Noticing this, he looks around and wonders if the other babies surrounding him are also calamity eggs. It's not like he hasn't heard the term before. He heard it in his past life. But since he was a total nobody back then, he never got access to that kind of info. Still, he's betting Leon knows something about it. Then he thinks about the army the organization took out in his past life, and his thoughts drift back to the old man, who clearly doesn't trust Leon since he insisted on personally checking if his granddaughter was safe. He also thinks about Leon inspecting him, and the flood of thoughts hitting his brain. For a second, he remembers his mom and his dog, but he immediately pushes those thoughts away. He's in no position to think about others. His top priority is to cook up an escape plan. He tries to open the door with his power, but he can't. And he remembers that after getting the crystal core before he fused the ability called Dark Shadow, which is currently nerfing a lot of his other techniques. For now, he can only use Dark Shadow and Divine Barrier, with the latter being useful for blocking mental attacks. But the first one is way too powerful and risky in his current spot, so he decides to just wait it out. He needs to get a better read on what these people are up to before he blows his cover. So far, pretending to be just a baby has been working pretty well. All of a sudden, he notices something weird coming from another crib, a baby whose legs are morphing into tree branches, which confirms that kid is also a compatible. Then he sees a few more babies showing off different kinds of powers, and he remembers that in his past life, these kids were always kept on lockdown. Now he gets it. That everyone's been dumped in a spot just like his. Out of nowhere, this vine just snags him and yanks him off the ground. He tries to break free, but it's no use. And for a sec, he's like, should I use my powers? But then this other kid pops up and helps him slip out. It's this little 5-year-old dude who tells him to just play possum, like pretend to be asleep. And Kai is shook seeing a kid this little, has already totally mastered his skills. Just then he hears something behind him and curses super quiet. The other kid just vanishes, and when Kai spins around, he sees these nurses walking in to do a checkup or something. So he immediately flops on the floor and fakes being asleep. The head nurse tells him to grab all the babies, and one of them scoops him up too. While all this is going down, Kai's just thinking, what is even happening right now? What's the end game here? A little later, they put all the babies back on the floor, and when he cracks an eye open, it's pitch black. A super messed up thought hits him. Are they gonna make them all throw down? Honestly, he wouldn't even be surprised. I mean, that was standard procedure in the organization from his last life. Plus, he can totally feel someone from the org nearby. From the organization is close. He starts crawling just as the other babies start getting up too. He looks up and spots Lion watching them from the floor above, before he can even really process it. He sees this monster creeping up on one of the babies. At first he's thinking, oh great, we're Monster Chow, because he doesn't remember seeing any babies in his past life. But then he sees the monsters chained up, not that it means they're safe or anything. He figures the chains are just temporary and they're gonna let this thing loose at some point. Everyone there is freaking out. That kid from before steps up, grabs the crying baby and moves it somewhere safe, away from the creature. Watching the other babies, and Lion Kai puts 2 and 2 together. They've all been brought here to fight this monster and force their powers to activate. This totally tracks with what he knows about the org's plan, the one called the House Dog Project that started after Lai went down. The whole thing got handed off to Lion. Right then, Lion basically admits everything he told his master was a total act, and then, with this slick little smile, he tells them all not to let him down as he smashes a button that kicks off the test. The chains holding the monster snap, and the beast makes a beeline straight for Kai, who just barely dodges it, though his ear gets clipped in the process. He checks out the monster, guessing it's maybe a level 2. And even though he's pretty sure he can take it, he's not so sure about the others when he looks around. He sees the other kids are completely terrified, and one of the little ones starts wailing, which of course gets the monster's attention right away. The beast switches targets and goes for that baby, but right then, the girl next to the little one freaks out, which makes her tree branch power thingy go off. Totally on instinct, a bunch of vines shoot out and wrap up the monster super tight. Kai sees it and gives her a thumbs up, hoping the girl can keep the monster locked down for a little longer. At that moment, Lion, he also clocks the girl's power manifesting, which he IDs as some kind of vine ability and thinks it's got some serious potential, especially considering she's barely at level 1. His attention, though, quickly snaps over to our main guy who hasn't shown any powers yet. Still, he's totally convinced that Kai has gotta be an ability user, and thinks he'll for sure awaken them when he's pushed into a corner, in some crazy intense situation. And right at that moment, the monster manages to break free from the vines with a huge burst of force, and gets ready to unleash its full power.